Hey, what's up? Finally getting around to doing a review of the Seiko Prospex SBDC105 Cappuccino Gilt dial. It's otherwise goes by the reference number, I believe, SPB147. And yeah, it's I guess it's kind of been a long-term review. Right now it's May 10th of 2021, and I got this, I believe, towards the end, either autumn or almost not quite the end of the year, probably around autumn of last year, 2020. So I guess it's been about 8 months, perhaps. Um, it's been most recently really great watch. And let's see. So this is a long-term review because I've had a chance to really wear it and enjoy it, and it's not coming from a quick, week or 2 week turnaround time. This has really been worn and used, and but it's in excellent condition. And let's get into it. So first, dimensions. It is a 40.5 diameter case, or at least somewhere right around here. Lug to lug, I believe I just checked it. It's 47.6 millimeters. You got 20 millimeter lugs, and the thickness is, I believe, 13.2. And you got a sapphire crystal with AR coating on the inside. And what else do we have here? We got a screw down case back, 200 meters water resistance. This houses the new 6R35 automatic movement with a 70-hour power reserve, and just has a date complication, but that's basically about it. Let me zoom up into this a little bit. So yeah, I was hesitant on getting one for a while because it just seems like, oh, it's a nice watch, but I felt like everyone was kind of getting it at the time, but then I couldn't help it. And I always had, they have lots of good colors, probably the gray version, it's like a anthracite gray dial instead, and there's no gilt. That one's pretty nice. It's very versatile as well, but I wanted something different. I felt like a lot of people were getting that one, and I have a thing for brown dials. Hopefully this is showing up. I know it's kind of, this lighting can make it a little bit bright, but yeah, there is a nice radiant brown dial. I wonder if I can get up close and show it to you. You can kind of catch it. Yeah, I'll try to throw in some my wrist shots that I do on different straps for my watch strapping series. I try to throw those in. You'll probably get a better idea of how this looks like in natural light. I guess this light box lighting, it's great to show off details, clearly, like, it's well lit, but sometimes this bright lighting is doesn't really completely accurately show what's going on. So you got the gold or gilt, accents here. Supposedly these are not truly applied, or they're pressed from behind, but whatever, they look like applied markers, and they look great. And let's get this thing wind up. So you got a screw down crown. If I didn't mention that, I didn't measure the crown diameter, but I'm sure you can get that from another source. And you just go like that. Let's check out the winding sound. And first position will change the date, but this may or may not be between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. So what I always do is hack it and then advance the time, and yep, it's looking like it's turning over. So we don't want to set the date while this is going on. It's a no-no. But look, it snaps over. Pretty good. Within 5 minutes after. Close enough. I think it's maybe a little bit closer to it when in actual use, when I'm wearing the watch. I think it actually might snap over 5 minutes beforehand, if I remember correctly, but it's close enough to midnight, so that's good. And so we're going to clear the danger zone, go to around 6 a.m. And then put it back here, and this will set the date. It should go this way. And today's the 10th. Then I'm recording this on. So dust here. And I don't know what the exact time is, but we're just going to put it into it. A favorable position for now. And then you push it all in, and it doesn't have any problem screwing down. It goes on pretty clean. It doesn't seem like it has any issues with cross threading, but sometimes just to play it safe, I might just kind of, back twist it so that you can feel the threads. Like you'll feel it drop into place, and then screw it down just to make sure it doesn't cross thread. Did I mention? Yeah, we got brushed sides. Nice. I believe it's got radial brushing across the top surface, and the beveled edges on the bottom too have high polish, and of course high polish in the back. Typical Seiko diver case back there, and not signed, which is too bad, but not a big deal to me. And yeah, drove through lug holes, which is great. And there's Diashield coating, so it's supposed to help keep it from getting scratches. It still can get scratches, but it does, I think, somewhat greatly reduces the chance that it will get scratched. I mean, considering I wear this a lot to work, and my even off work, pretty good condition. So it usually, before I get to the bracelet, because this is the OEM one, but I had to buy that separate. We'll get into that. This usually comes in this, it only comes on this rubber strap. You can't, unless you go through Nomon, you could get that, add this as an option, but the way they price it, you get a slight discount on it, but you lose the strap. They don't bundle it together when you add it in the as an option when you're, when you got this on the web page, and I believe there's a part on the bottom right around where the price is, and so you can add if you want the bracelet option, you can do it for, I forget, $200 something. This bracelet normally costs pretty close to around $300, and it's damn pricey. I've had a hard time buying the bullet on it, but there wasn't any available options, and there still may not be any other aftermarket options because, well, one, I'm a bracelet guy, so that's why I had to get one. I prefer that, but I do like my rubber strap option. But again, if you do it through Nomon, they'll give you this, but they'll take this away. They've done that with like Steinhardt, I think. If you want to like swap out like the stock Oyster for like a Jubilee, you pay not the full price for that bracelet, at least not when you buy it separately by itself. But they will, keep the stock bracelet or strap option and give you that. So I don't know. Sometimes that may be fine, but in this case, this is a good rubber strap. It's got this kind of I guess this is kind of a new tire tread pattern, and it's nice signed, milled buckle, brushed metal keeper, and the wave logo right here, just like on the back. But yeah, so I wanted to get a bracelet option, and at the time there wasn't really one that was like at least fitted like this. And on top of that, because of this Diashield coating, you get like it darkens the metal, so it's got a slightly grayish tint to it. So if you try to pair it with something else aftermarket, it's going to be brighter. I don't know if this is a good comparison here. You can see here, maybe this is my NTH. This is this stainless steel as well, but I don't know if you can see the difference. But you can see that this metal stainless steel is darker than this one here, right? You look at the lugs and the case, it just comes off. Let me see. You're gonna get a variation. I mean, maybe you're not that picky, but I am, so I couldn't have that. I had to get the OEM because this has the Diashield coating as well. So, and it's not a bad bracelet. Some people say it's not all that. It's not the best, but I certainly don't have a problem with it. And it's nice that actually everything, like especially when the clasp is flushed and smooth, it's not really thick. You do get a this flip and then dual buttons to deploy, and it is milled. So this is an upgrade over their previous bracelets, solid and links, as you can see, and no screws. I believe it's if I recall, it's a pin and collar system. So let me see this. You can see it here. These are the extra links. Yeah, so you got this pin, and then there's a collar that runs through the center link. It's not the hardest thing, but you just want to make sure actually the tool that you use, the little pin that you hammer, probably or somehow push those pins through. It's just a hair smaller because you don't want it to be the exact same size as this hole and this and the actual pin itself, because once that head goes in and gets to the part where there's a collar, that collar is going to be a smaller inner diameter, right? So you're not going to get much. You could damage the collar or the bracelet. Like you could start knocking the links out from the other end, because that if the tool you're using is too thick, I guess it'll start hitting the collar, and then that'll start tapping out the links, and you're going to start getting a gap. So keep that in mind. Just get like a tool that's slightly smaller, so that should go right through the collar, so that way it'll push the pin all the way through, and then it'll just come out. So just a little tip there in case you never dealt with it, but it's not that hard. Once you get a size, you're never really gonna mess with it again. So it's not that big a deal that you don't get screws. I've never had any problem with either system, and they work fine. So you got a diver extension here. So I'm just going to show this off real quickly. It comes off. It's a bit fiddly. It's not the best thing, but it works. This is probably, you know, it'll do the extension, but and then to latch it on, you just kind of hook it there and lock it in, and that's it. So let me zoom out real quick, but I'll show you this one. It's nice and flushed. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to knock the camera. And this is zoom out again. Oops, 1 times. And this is on my just under 7-inch wrist. It's not 6 3/4, but it's somewhere in between, like 6 7/8. At least that's when I last measured it. And I usually like to wear mine. Here's my wrist bone, with this in line with the middle of the wrist bone. That seems to be the best place usually for most of the watches to sit on my wrist, because if it's too far back, this part of my arm narrows a bit, and then it can make it look more spacious or gappy here. So if I push it forward, it kind of fills it out more. But everyone's wrist is different. So check it out. It's got good presence. It's basically practically almost a 41mm watch, right? But then again, most Seiko divers were a little bit smaller. And on top of that, just I think the ratio of like the style size to the bezel thickness makes it look a little bit smaller too. And I'm just trying to see here. Well, it's pretty much flushed with the case, although maybe the case does seem like it protrudes ever so slightly wider than the bezel, but it's practically the same. And it's a nice coinage grip here. And you check out it's very typical Seiko sound and feel of the bezel clicks and when you're turning it. It's very distinct. I don't think too many other dive watches that I know of quite has that Seiko sound and feel. This one's smooth, and it always feels slightly, to me, I would say dampened. It's like you move it, and there's ever so slight delay after you do that, and it clicks. Watch. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, you move it and then click, 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 clicks. Move it, click, click, clicks. It's almost right, just right behind, like a step behind. But I don't know. I kind of like that. I like all kinds of bezel sounds like. This is completely different to NTH. It has no play, and it clicks right in. This is a nice one too, and it's very, positive, affirmative, and there's zero play. But Seiko, on the other hand, there is, well, there pretty is much, at least on mine it isn't. Not really. I'll take this off for a second so you can get a better look. And I think I lucked out on this because actually, well, you don't have to worry since the minute markings on the dial, you don't have that chapter ring that a lot of the other Seiko divers have, right? It's a separate piece that can kind of be off, shift a little bit one side or the other, so it may not always line up, but you won't have that problem because these are printed on here, right? So that's good. So that'll always be aligned with all the markers and everything on the dial. So anything that can be misaligned is the bezel. I know people have gotten theirs, maybe not necessarily the same one, but some other ones, but they might be slightly off. That's one of the Seiko, I guess, quirks. But luckily, when I got mine, it did line up perfectly, and that's bueno. And no, it's not fake. That's a joke that if it's aligned, that it's not. Rather, if it's misaligned, then it's genuine. No, you can't get lucky. And I did, and that compelled me to want to keep this for a while longer because I didn't have to mess around with. Although I probably could have removed it and reset it, and I probably would have because I hate misaligned bezel. But I didn't have to do that. It was perfect. So I'd say everything. The hands line up good. The only thing that I say that this didn't do so well right out of the box was the accuracy. It sucked. I wasn't using the app at the time, but it didn't, the way I usually measure it, just by timing with my clock on my phone. It was enough that I could tell that was definitely off, like minus 30 seconds a day or something like that. And so that's way out of specs. And if I'd known that sooner, maybe I might have tried to contact Nomon. That's where actually I got this from, and have them exchange it or fix it or something. But geez, the only thing is I really don't want to deal with shipping things back overseas and then waiting, and then it's a bit of a headache. Even though you really want to get it done right and use the warranty and whatever else that goes with buying a new watch from an authorized seller, retailer, dealer. That's what you kind of have to do, but I did not want to do that. As you know, I've been modding and tinkering with my movements and all sorts of things for a while, not just Seikos but other things, but definitely a lot of Seikos. You just look at back at my past videos and I have experience with that. And so I'm comfortable opening this, but for the life of me, I could not open this. It was so hard, and I did scratch it ever so small somewhere in the back here because it just would not open. So it took me, I just tried it, and somewhere right around there, I think maybe one other spot, cheap tools, and sometimes no matter how firmly you try to hold it so it doesn't slip, if it's so tight it will slip, especially those cheap Chinese case opening tools. But they usually work, but this was one of those instances where I needed help. So it took me several months, and I was trying to see if it will change its behavior to be more positive, or at least not as negative in deviation, but it didn't. So eventually I found had time to go to someplace, to a watchmaker, someone that sells jewelry and stuff, whatever, to actually help me open this. And they did. And I put this on a time grapher that I have. I wore it first, then I put it on a time grapher when I had time, and then I was just making notes of the positions and how much the deviation was, how it's performing, and then I'd in different positions, and then I go in and just tweak the lever for controlling the regulation. Didn't want to screw around with the beat error, although I do know what to do. It's if you mess that up, you can really send it off. Especially, I'm not gonna get to it, but there are these studs that can turn to that's on those levers. You push those the wrong way, even you don't look like you did anything. You could, even the slightest movement could send the readings all out of whack. And I did do that once on a cheaper watch, and then I never recovered it, and I ended up trashing that movement. So I definitely did. If I can avoid messing with a beat error, I will. But I do know what to do. But anyways, but yeah. So anyways, so in my head I knew how much was about off, and I was looking at the measurements, the readings, different positions on the time grapher, and then I would just look at the readings as I was tweaking it slowly, very carefully, and then check the positions, mostly I think dial side up, and I believe like this, would that be crown to the left? Well, basically like this position, because when I'm wearing the watch it's mostly like that or like this, and then sometimes crown down, because my, you know, when you're walking, standing, your wrist is likely to be down, right? Those are the main three positions I check. But I think mostly I was looking at this or this position, because I don't always have my hand up like that. I think it's probably more natural to have it like this, especially if I'm sleeping, and I do wear my watch sleeping. I don't think I would have my hand like this as much as probably like that. Anyways, so with that in mind, I just tweaked it till I thought that the, you know, if it was showing minus, because the readings don't always show what the performance is on wrist. But anyways, so if I was kind of guesstimating, if it was like showing like minus 20, and I thought it was off by minus 30, I'd probably, like in this position, I'd probably push it until it was maybe plus 10. So I figured, okay, well, if it was mostly minus 30, then maybe if I pushed it plus 30, so even though it shows minus 20, I've made it move plus 30 total, right? Because it goes into plus 10, if you catch my meaning. Then I just double check to see if that actually happened. And then basically I cased it up and wear it, and tested it out. And there you go. And that's basically how I go about tweaking things and trying to see if it works. And then if it doesn't, I look at where it's how it's been affected since I last messed with the regulation, and adjust accordingly. And luckily, I only had to do it once. You know, I might have checked it like 2, maybe 3 times, because I'm just carefully, slowly adjusting it. I forgot exactly what I did. It's been several months now, but I got to a point where I thought it was about right. And so then, but basically that first attempt with those couple of back and forths while I was doing it, it seemed to do a trick. It started from minus 30-ish. It gave me a decent plus 5 or plus 6 seconds a day, and I could live with that. And it was like that for a while, and then finally, not, you know, from now, it was probably at least a couple months now, but I decided to just download some free apps, 2 of them. What are they called? I'll try to remember them. But basically I use 2 different ones so that I can kind of cross-reference 2 different apps just to get an average, because one app or the other might kind of measure it slightly differently. So if I got at least 2 readings from 2 different apps, it'll give me a good idea of if it's where it's really more or less performing within on wrist. The most important is how it performs on wrist, because I don't care if I'm leaving it on the table overnight, which I never do unless I'm done wearing it and I'm rotating to a different watch. But when I have a watch on, usually I'll wear it all the way through. I'll take it off the shower. I try not to, because hard water or soap scum and stuff can get into some places that you don't want, and I generally don't want to wash uh, take a hot shower with this anyways, even though it probably could take it, but it's, why subject it to that, right? But yeah, so I wear it to sleep, wake up with it, and pretty much have this on almost all the time, except for showers, and unless there's something really bad I need to handle that I don't want mess the watch up. And I check it, and then now, long story, that was a long story. Now it is actually doing plus 1.5 seconds now, which is awesome. I mean, from being the worst running watch that I had at about minus 30, it is now, and just zoom up now, it is now running about average about plus one, maybe 1.5 seconds a day, which is really, really good. And I'm pretty happy with that. And sometimes it barely even moves. It's very, very stable and zeroed out, at least when on wrist. I believe when I leave it on a table or something, for some reason, for one overnight even, or a day, I do notice that it will pick up speed and deviate a bit more. But while I'm wearing it, even when I'm sleeping and stuff, it doesn't really, the readings aren't that different from between nighttime when I go to bed and when I wake up. And then by the time I check throughout the day, it's a very steady accuracy. It holds very, very low deviation. So I'm really happy with that. And I guess I got lucky. I should check it on the time grapher just to see, like, okay, if this is what I'm getting while I'm wearing it, what is the time grapher showing you? I mean, time graphers, unless your thing is cost certified, where it should be super well balanced and regulated to be any position for the most part, and in any situation, whether it's static or in motion, right? The point is that it's stable no matter what, as much as possible, right? Unless you have a watch that's like that, most of us, we're not buying cost certified stuff. We have Seiko, Miyota, even ETA movements that aren't necessarily regulated or balanced that well either. And for that, the real test is on the wrist, not on time grapher. They always tell you what you probably should be getting, but what you actually get is what's on the wrist, and that's what matters. So, but at least that gives you a baseline reference, and then if you ever wanted to delve in and tweak it, you kind of have an idea, what you're getting when you're wearing it versus what the time grapher is reading still, and then you just kind of guesstimate how to adjust the regulator and make it closer to where you want it. So yeah, it's a great watch. I just love the tones of this. Again, this lighting may not show it, so I hopefully am showing you still photos that I've done. I've done lots of them. If you follow my Facebook and some of the watch groups, as well as on Instagram at Chronocraze with a K, KHRONOKRAZE, just like this channel name. You'll see like lots of pictures I do on different straps. Usually I try to just capture, I don't try to take the same shot of the same setup all the time. Try to show something different, but sometimes I do because I just feel like wearing it and it's like, oh, this looks damn good, I want to take a picture of it, and I'll just show it again. But yeah, so I'm showing you how it looks like, better lighting outdoors, and hopefully if I'm doing my wrist shots too, you also see just how dynamic everything is. It's the color of the dial, the way the reflections pop. That's why I kind of like this sort of applied indices if it's not genuine. At least it's certain lighting, especially on the wrist. It's nice to get that catch of light where it's just all the indices, the frame around it just reflects and brightens up. And this is a nice color. It's not. What I like about this is that it looks. I can imagine this. I do imagine this as like a tropicalized, black on black watch. So that's been tropicalized. So that's why the bezel is not actually black. It's actually like a dark gray. And then obviously the dial is not black, right? It's brown. So you've seen some some black dials have gone tropic and they go kind of brown. And the fact that the bezel is not completely, imagine if it was black, it's now faded to a gray. And then imagine if these indices used to be white, but through time they've yellowed. So they have this kind of cream or tannish, light tan color. And the patina on this, the faux tina, if you want to call it that, in the Lume is really nice and tastefully done. It's not like orange and super dark. It's just enough, a little creaminess you can see, and it just gives a nice warm tone. And it's pretty nice that this, which is unusual. You don't usually see like faux tina to glow blue, but it does. And this, of course, using Seiko Lume Bright, and so it goes nice and bright and long lasting. Probably not as much as maybe the white ones with the green Lume color, but I like blue, and I think the blue complements the gold and brown colors actually pretty nicely. And I'll try to, maybe if I tone this down a little bit. Let me see if I can knock down the exposure a bit. I gotta turn off, let me see. Hang on a second. Okay. Yeah, so I got a little bit more control of trying to show you how it looks like, see? And then with a little bit of light coming back in, I don't know, I think it looks pretty nice. A nice cool blue. Sorry if you hear footsteps and furniture moving upstairs. And I think, let me turn the lights on. So that's, if you didn't get it, that basically is the Lume shot. And maybe I'll show you a nice picture of it right about here, so you can see what it looks like. Turn the lights back on. So yeah, it's got great lume, just as you expect from Seiko. Last shot of the night. Sure, it does dim slightly, but trust me, for at least my eyesight, and I don't have the best eyesight, I can still read it, and it looms up just fine. And what can I say? Yeah, just love the tone, and also the fact that everything's very nicely subdued. I mean, you get that with the gray version, but I like how this has the warmer colors with the brown. Something is very luxurious about brown and gold. And the gold isn't overdone. It's kind of like a pale gold. It's not like a real yellow gold. So that's done subtly. The patina is subtle. You got grays. So it's not really actually super high contrasty in that sense. And coupled with the fact that the metal is coated with diashield, and it actually darkens it to a slightly gray color. So this has all overall a toned down and subdued look, which is pretty cool. And it's a great modern interpretation of the classic 62 mas model. And I think this and the other ones in this general line is pretty much Seiko's. Hang on a second. As I was trying to say, sorry, someone's going to walk into the room. As I was trying to say, this is a great alternative to, say, I think a Black Bay 58. Yeah, Black Bay 58 is 39. This is closer to a 51. But something about the feel of it, you know, they're both a modern interpretation of one of the first models. You know, it's a heritage thing, and it just kind of gives that same general kind of vibe, you know, but in a modern package. And this costs a lot less too. And I gotta tell you, you know, 70-hour versus the 80-hour power reserve of the Black Bay 58. Still in-house movement. It's a new Seiko in-house movement as well. The 6R35. It's got a date, which is very practical, though some people are not like that. But hey, it's kind of a Seiko thing, you know. They do tend to put their dates in the dive watches. You know, fully indexed markers. I forget, ISO, whatever, certified. It's a true diver's watch, 200 meters. You got the nice, you don't have crown guards. It's just a crown right here. And it's got that nice vibe that's from the, I guess, the late 60s era, right? Somewhere around there. And I think they do it well. It's original design, and yeah, I think you'd be pretty happy to have this as an alternative if you can't afford a Black P58, or maybe it doesn't, maybe for whatever reason it doesn't do it for you anyways, but you want something kind of in that kind of general style or of that era, then Seiko, such as this one or the gray one or the limited edition that's got the blue with the gold hand, and God, there's a bunch of them. They have a new 440th anniversary edition, which I want to make a note of, that's got that white dial. Oh, before I get into that, I was considering this. I think is basically the same thing, but without it might have the white indexes and silver hands. It's a boutique special. I believe it's supposed to be still a brown dial, although I thought maybe somebody said it's slightly different, like more like a taupe, but from what I can tell from the pictures, I think it's still brown radiant dial. It's just that, and it comes with a bracelet, and I think it also comes with this. You can only get it at the boutiques, but they didn't have it in stock for most boutiques for a long while, and I kind of didn't want to wait or probably pay a premium on that as well. And I kind of do dig the gold on this with the brown. It's just it's kind of retro, yet it's also very understated, elegance too. I don't think people realize how nice brown can be and universal. In fact, I think it can be slightly more easier to pair and match up with different strap options and whatnot than a blue dial. But anyways, I digress. So anyways, I ended up getting this and bracelet, paid a bit more anyways, because this I had to pay about $300, and this is not always in stock too. But at the way I saw it, there was no other way, because I needed that dial shield coating to match the tone of gray throughout. I just wanted to look cohesive. I didn't want like all of a sudden a brighter silver bracelet that, even though they may make one that has a fitted end link, the coating, I doubt they will have a coating that matches the case of the Seiko. So got to bite the bullet and do it. That's the way I see it. Oh yeah, these are male links, but really, I think people make too big a deal of these. I mean, sure, if it was female, it would be a little bit more flexible, but unless your wrist size is even smaller than like the lug to lug, you probably shouldn't be wearing this anyways. Most people who have it are not that small, so I don't know. Even if it was a female, it would naturally drape out down this way anyways. So the fact that it's already hanging out here like this is not a big deal. The only thing is that you can't really fold it back over like as closely to the case. But hey, whatever. I mean, this should be on your wrist anyway, right? Otherwise, just put it in a pillow in your watch case, or so, however you do it, and put it safely aside. But I digress again. I wanted to talk about the 140th version. Maybe I'll try to throw up a picture right about here in comparison, but it has that nice, it's got a white dial and the blue bezel. And it's pretty cool look. Silver indexes, instead of gold, obviously. But because of the new ISO standard, they have to make, I think part of that is they have to make all the hour indices loomed, even a little bit, like at the 3. So what they did was they added a little piece right on the, see where the chapter ring is, or the outside markers? They fit one right outside there. That's unfortunate. I mean, otherwise, I really wish they didn't even bother trying it. Why couldn't they just left it like the way they did it here? And they do that with the new MM200. Can't remember the exact model, but you know what I'm talking about. It looks like a remaster. It's about 42 millimeters now, crown at the 4. They have to start off with the blue dial with a black bezel, or the stainless steel bezel with a black dial. You know what I'm talking about. They have more colors now, but that also actually has that too. But going back to the 140th with the white dial and the blue accents, yeah, I just wish they didn't add that there because it just looks like such an afterthought. It's outside of all the other markers, you know. They're all within the chapter in the markings, and then all of a sudden that one, because of that date wheel and because it's the new ISO standard, they have to, oh, we got to fit one somewhere, so we'll just stick it right there on the outer edge. So in daytime, you may kind of not notice it because that date window kind of looks like it's blending into that marker. So it kind of looks like one piece. So you maybe not taken aback by it, but you know, you go to a loom shot, then you'll see that it's all loomed up. And then when you get here, there's one just kind of outside of the, you know, that range that the rest of them hold. So that kind of sucks. You know, I wish they didn't have to add that into the white one. Otherwise, that would be kind of tempting. Although personally, I don't like to have stainless steel or silver markings or our hands and indexes against a white. You can see it, but it's not as good as you go gunmetal or like black accents instead. But or even blue. This should have been blued hands and the blue outlines and stuff. That would have been nice. But the date window, they probably should have just like on my I gotta do a review on that too. But the new street tunas that are like 43 millimeters, really cool. They fit it in the 430, and yeah, some people don't like that. And if the date window was like black or at least dial match somehow, and you put in a full index here, I could live with that because at least it keeps everything symmetrical. You don't have to have that odd little loom pip sticking out to the just all by itself there. And the way the dial with these indexes are, they just have that reflectiveness and that 3Dness that kind of pops up off the dial anyway. So those kind of grab your attention before if it's a very subtle date window would. And just when I show you my tuna review, you'll see what I'm talking about because that window it's just there, but it just kind of fades in the background because everything else is so much bolder and kind of pops out anyways. That just kind of disappears. So it's not such a big deal that it's at the 430. But I guess because of this 62 Moss inspired design, I guess they're calling this the 63 Moss, whatever. But the date window has always been at this 3 anyway, so I guess that's why they had to keep it. So any final thoughts? I know I usually go quite long. Sorry, but that's just the way I roll or the way I ramble or both. Definitely it's pricey. These hover on the rubber right around 1,000. You might be able to get around like mid or high 900s or so. Maybe cheaper if you hunt around. But if you want the bracelet, and I'm a bracelet guy, and I definitely recommend it. And you should go with the OEM one because of that dial shield coating. That darkened steel would match the case better than any aftermarket, which is likely not to have that kind of tonal match. You're gonna have to bite the bullet on around $300. It was like a high 200s basically, but for all intents and purposes, practically 300 for just a bracelet. And it's not really worth that much, to be honest. Even with the dial shield coating, but you know, you really don't have too many choices if you really care about the details and making sure it all matches. Is it the best fit? No, you can see it's kind of loose. You know, it's not the tightest. You can see there, and the same goes on this side a bit. But when you wear it, you don't feel it like jingly jangly and shifting around all the time, and like there's no real major gaps, even if it does shift, that screams out to you, oh my god, this thing is totally loose, and look at that gap there. No, I don't think so. I would say it's not the best match fitted, but because this watch was never originally designed with a bracelet in mind anyways, I think they did as about as good as it can, and it looks kind of cool. I like the, it kind of goes down and then back up in the mid-link and then goes back down. It gives it some kind of, you know, dimensionality and you know, a little bit of bulk and structure and form. around this area, which I think looks pretty cool. What else? I hope I'm not missing anything. Yeah, so if you can, definitely recommend it. Hopefully you will get a bezel that's well lined, and hopefully you won't get a crappy movement like I did at first. But when I regulate it myself, this performs better than the Christopher Ward Sandstorm, this chronometer. That was still running at least +6, which this was originally, but now it's again +1.5. And even my Miyota this thing even runs even better. I think it's like -0.5 per day. It's right out of the box. People snub Miyota movements for some stupid reason, but I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how even if it is cheap or affordable, it's a solid, great movement that works. And you should be glad that you can get an affordable movement, relatively affordable movement that can perform that great, and then you can probably, whoever's making the watch with that movement can put more into making the overall quality better, put some into the design and anything else, right? Other than having to, unnecessarily put too much into the movement when it works pretty darn good. And you don't really, maybe it really depends on how it's cased and everything else, but this, I don't really get wobble, and the sound of the rotor not often enough to even be a thing. But anyways, this is about this watch. So what can I say? If I back out a little, so it comes in the standard gray box, the tan pillow, white box here, warranty card, instruction manual. That's it. This is just extra. This came with a bracelet what I bought when it finally was in stock. I bought it, but and it comes with this, and I would show it to you, but I'm too lazy to change it out. I think that's all I have to say about this. Hopefully I can get a chance to show you those photos and the wrist shots I do for my watch strapping series. Showed it off in the different nice daylight lighting scenarios. So thanks for watching. I know it's this long. I'll see if I can edit it a little bit shorter, but thanks for staying in there, and sorry it took so long to get this out. There's probably been plenty of reviews on this already, but this is from my perspective, having, I believe, this for basically, I think it's at least 8 months. And so, I got a good run, so I can tell you how it's holding up. And this is a solid watch. It really does have 70-hour power reserve. I can put this down and pick it up, but it does tend to speed up on mine if I do leave it down, but that's okay. I prefer positive deviations where I can just hack the movement, wait for normal time to catch up, and then unhack it and then let it continue its way and put it back on wrist. Maybe get a couple of twists just to make sure it's powered up, if it's depending on how long I've been leaving it sitting, and then you're good to go, and it'll keep accurate. Again, I've been getting about 1.5 seconds more or less per day, so that will be very good. All right, take it easy, and I gotta work on a lot of other videos. See you later.